Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome into this workshop. We're going to be talking about how to kind of successfully pull off managing a public and a government access station. So, how many of you have a separate channel for gov and public? How many of you have one channel? Okay, so um, we. I will start this out by saying that we have two different channels. So we have a government access channel and a public access channel. These are the mission statements for both. I know the process of mission statements and policies is can be tedious. It's not everybody's favorite thing to do, but one thing I will say is that when I got to Oshkosh Media about 7 years ago, I didn't have a whole lot of experience like developing policy, putting one together. How does that process work? And when I got there, there was already a really robust one in place. And it's a boring document to read, but what I've learned over the years is that, to say it plainly, a policy document gives you something to hide behind. It gives you something to justify what you do. It holds you accountable also in that when you say, well, this is our policy, this is what we do, it allows you to treat everybody the same way. It allows you to apply the same answer to different questions. And so one of the ways that we are able to manage how we spend our staff time, requests that we get that we can say yes or no to, is that we are balanced by policy. So in our policy document, we have a definition of what each channel is and what it does. So this also can help you develop kind of that elevator speech if ever someone's ever like, well, what do you do? Or what are the channels for? Who can be on it? How do you distribute your resources? If you do not have a policy document or you've never had a discussion about policy for your center, I would encourage you to just start with that. Start with a mission statement. What does your channel do or your channels? What do you do? What is your mission? What is your purpose? And then from there, the policy things can flow. And when we talk about policy, I'm talking about we have defined how long programs are going to be, how many reruns shows are going to get if they're submitted by a community producer. What are we going to do about indecent content? When will that air? Our public access channel is a free speech forum and a First Amendment outlet. That's one of the ways that we define it in the mission statement. So if you're going to say that, if you're going to put that out there, then you kind of have to walk the walk as well. So we get stuff. We don't screen anything that we get from the public side, but we have gotten programs that have gotten a little out there, and our general policy is if a complaint comes in and someone says this is inappropriate content, I don't think this should be airing on the channel, our knee-jerk reaction isn't to pull it, it's to move it to a late night hour. So you're not silencing that person. You're not taking away their ability, their First Amendment right to express themselves and to use the channel for what it was made for. But you are taking a step to kind of mitigate that concern that the viewer brought to you. So again, a lot of the policy bullet points that is in our document now were born out of, what does our policy say about that? Absolutely nothing. Okay, well, let's sit down and talk about what it is we're trying to do here and how that's going to reflect out in the decisions that we make and how we treat certain requests and situations. So with policy stuff in mind, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we kind of foster our public access channel and content that gets on that channel in our community. So we have recently upgraded our production equipment. These in the past, we had camcorders that are kind of similar to the ones that are being used to record our workshops. And what we found was in an effort, we were putting in an effort to provide kind of prosumer or a step up from your normal handheld stuff, the cameras and the things that we were providing folks who are used to shooting videos on their phones were just too much. I don't need all these dials and bells and whistles. What I really want is a camera that's going to shoot good, clean video and an ability to plug a microphone into it, because that's the number one request that we get is people, oh, I have my own camera, or oh, I have my phone, or I have whatever I need, but I'm trying to do interviews and they sound like crap on my phone camera, on my microphone on my phone, so what can I do to make that better? So we do have a lot of options for folks who want to come in and do audio gear, but that gets them in the door and it sees the other offerings that we have. We have that Rode Podcaster studio, And then we also have a public PC that has a Adobe Creative Cloud installed on it. So if folks want to come in, they can check out time on the computer. They can come in and edit there as well. Some people have editing systems at home, and they come in and they say, I would just rather edit here because I want to get out of my house. I want to be somewhere else so I can focus. And we also have fast internet. So if depending on folks' internet speed, if they want to upload stuff to YouTube, they can do that as well. The only caveat that we throw on production equipment, it's twofold. Number one, we put them through a quick training class. Even if they know what they're doing, we just want to say, this is how this stuff works. We want you to feel comfortable out in the field, and we'll train folks on editing, and we'll train them on studio production as well. And the other caveat is, if you use our equipment to produce content, all we ask, or all that we require, is that you also submit it to air on the public access channel. So you can take it, it's still yours, put it on your YouTube channel, put it on Facebook, put it, wherever you want, but submit it for the public access channel so that we're getting that local content as well. And all of that, the checkout is free, the editing is free, and the studio use is free. All that stuff is free. The training classes, we offer 2 now. This used to be a lot more intense, a lot more long form. And again, what we found was it was taking up a lot of staff time, but I think we were also just going kind of overkill. The best way to get your folks in and get them excited is to actually get their hands on gear and then just let them go out and make stuff and make mistakes and come back with blue video and no audio and all the stuff that happens to everybody who goes out into the field and is like, why did it turn out that way? Oh, now I understand how the focus works. So we are there for moral support too, because folks will come back and say, it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. But we want them to keep coming back. We want them to keep creating local content so we continue to make that stuff available. The training class, we charge $50 a person, or if they volunteer for 5 hours, we drop it down to $20. The only reason we do that is, I shouldn't say the only reason, but one of the reasons we do that is so that they have a little bit of skin in the game, because I will set up a training session and get my stuff out and get it all set up. And then I've had it happen where the person just doesn't show. They sign up for it. They say, yep, I'm going to be there. They no call, no show. I don't hear from them. And then it's like, well, we dedicated some staff time to this, and now it's hard to justify having done that when you get all set up and no one shows up. The other thing that I wanted to touch on before Tom comes up and talks about what's going on in Marshfield is that for our public access side, we have 2 different show options, and I mentioned the training program that we have. So on the left, we've got what we call an independent show. Someone comes in and they say, I love llamas, and I want to do a show about them. And what do I have to do to make that happen? They complete a form just kind of telling us about the show, how long it's going to be, what their idea is for it, how frequently they want to produce it, and then they go through the necessary training program, which could be field production and editing if they want to do it in the field, or if they want to use our studio, we'll get them trained up on, we have a TriCaster 410 Plus in our studio, and we'll get them trained up on that stuff. They have free use of the studio, the control room, and the field production gear after they've gone through the training program. This model is they show up with their crew gets trained, and then we are just present in the building to kind of help them out. But we're not standing over their shoulder, what are you producing, what's going on in here? It's kind of public, the heart of, when you think of public access, that's kind of that model. Like, I bring in my own crew, we're totally independent, we produce our show, we submit it to you, and we get it out on Life TV, which is our public access channel. Another model that we have, and it's an offering that we do mostly with nonprofits, and again, some of these on the right under partnership program are things that are laid out in our policy. So right now we're doing a partnership show with the local chapter of the Disabled American Veterans, the DAV, and we also do one with a nonprofit in town called COTS, which is kind of a housing solution for a step in the continuum of care of housing and to combat homelessness in the community. So the way the process works, for instance, the DAV came to us and they said, we've got really great stories to tell. We really want to do this show, but we just have 2 people who want to be on air. They don't actually we don't want to do any of the camera stuff. We don't want to do the production stuff. How can we make that work? And luckily we have a kind of a model in place for that, which we call a partnership show. In our policy, we do state this has to be politically neutral and the mission must align with Oshkosh Media. And what that does, when you put something like that in a policy document, is it protects you from the person who comes in and says, I want to do a show about, something political. and you say, we're happy to train you up and you can bring your crew in and you can do that show, but we cannot be affiliated with an organization that is political in nature. Well, why not? Well, that's our policy. And I know that doesn't make people happy, but it does give you kind of a beacon to say, this is how we treat these requests, this is how we've done it in the past, and this is how we're going to continue to do it in the future. So under that partnership show model, Scott and I, Scott Williams from our office, you may know him, we will produce like a relatively simple show open, some graphics, we'll get photos ready, and essentially we act as the technical staff that works on the show, and the hosts, who are Mike and Adam for the DAV show, they basically just say, this is going to be our guest, here's a bunch of photos of them, here are some experiences they've been through, this is the show we want to do, and we handle all of the setup and the technical side of it, and they come in and host the show. We do this at a cost of $150 per show. I shouldn't say most. The two that we're doing right now are monthly shows. The one that is being done with COTS, which is the housing program show, they come in and they do 2 episodes on one day. So they'll have 2 different guests. And I should say, like, they are charged for staff time, but they have no challenges finding funding and support in the community. The COTS show, he gets set design stuff from one of the local flower shops. The local weekly newspaper sponsors his show, and then the organization that he works for, COTS, also sponsors the show. The DAV state chapter contributed towards the DAV's show, and then our Friends of OCM group will also provide support if a show comes to them and says, we raised $500 to pay for costs associated with producing this program, would you be willing to match that? They've never turned down a request like that. Some people come to them, some people secure enough funding where they don't feel they need to do that, but that is another option that you can go. So then after that, with the partnership show style, we handle the distribution as well. We get it out on Life TV, which is our public access channel, and then we also post it on our YouTube channel. They are free to take it and use it wherever they would like, but because it is a partnership program and they're a nonprofit organization, their content winds up on our YouTube channel and our website as well. So I just wanted to give you I know I try not to just say this is what we're doing all the time when I do these talks, but I feel like every time I'm having a good conversation with one of you here at this conference, it just winds up being, what do you do about this or what do you do about that? So I know that was somewhat anecdotal and it may not be apples to apples to what you have going on, but I would say in the time that I've been in the short 6 or 7 years that I've been in Oshkosh, the swing from where we were on the public access side and how much resources we put into that and how the value has kind of swung back towards the municipal side. We're now seen as a public information source. And one of our main missions is, and I tell Andy Raddick, our communications coordinator, all the time, I think this is like the fight of our life is to combat misinformation on social media and to attempt to reverse the distaste that people have for government because of the way things go at the federal and the state level, and humanizing local government as these are your neighbors and friends and these are people who are working for you and providing services that you actually use on a day-to-day basis. So we spend a lot of resources on the government side. I would say 70-30 for sure, I would say, on our GovTV side. But we, just like we had the discussion about this in our last session about whether or not you need to have a PEG channel, there are still folks in the community who are coming to us who are asking us for this service, who see this as a resource that they need. I would say on a weekly basis, we have 2 or 3 people who stop in and check something out to produce a show. We have plenty of folks who take months to actually produce something and turn it into us. Sometimes they say, this didn't work out and I'm not going to submit it. We're not all over them saying, well, if you're going to take our camera out, we really need you to have this program back to us in 2 weeks. It's not about that. It's about helping them create their content, creating a space where they feel safe to come in and grab that stuff from us, and then also showing them that the local content they're producing has value, and we want it. We don't want it to be on our public access channel just so we can fill up dead air and we don't have to air bulletin board. We want it because it's local content, and it's the story of the community, and that's what the public access channel is for. So, yeah.
I actually have 2 questions.
Yeah.
So my first question is more about when you're asking for money. Do you have a friends group, or is that just going like to operational funds, or how do you?
Good question. Yes. So for this specifically, there is a setup where we have a revenue account where this is actually a line item in our budget. And I say, okay, we're going to have 2 partnership shows next year. It's $150 a month. If they both do a show once a month, that's $300. You know, what is it, 3,600? I'm terrible at math. But that's the only revenue that we actually collect. If someone makes a donation, there's a city policy for that too. Generally, if we raise funds or if folks say we want to support Oshkosh Media, we just say, write the check to the friends. Because the friends are going to turn around and buy the gear or spend the money on us, and there's that relationship exists, and purchasing is good with that. So that's a great question. This is really I would say this partnership show thing is really the only time where we actually get a check or get money, and I walk it down to our collection staff and say, put this in revenue 10. So, set.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my other question was about more promotions of these specific shows. You know, is it within, I guess, a contract or the agreement that you are going to promote, like, hey, this is now on our YouTube channel, or is it kind of the other way around, where you're expecting these certain organizations to kind of help promote what you do?
Yeah. Great question. That is not defined in any kind of contract or anything like that. But one thing we did recently do, we did not have an official City of Oshkosh Facebook page. And I know some people call it City Hall, or you have to call it like City of Oshkosh Government, because Facebook won't just let you call it City of Oshkosh. But we established that about 1.5 years ago. And what that I think allowed us to do was because for the Oshkosh Media Facebook page was kind of like the de facto dumping ground for this must be the city's official page, because this is where we post all of our stuff. So we separated that. Kind of in a way that like we separate GovTV and Life TV, where we can draw that line, and I know that's not the case for everybody in here. But we now promote those shows more actively on our Oshkosh Media page, because now there is a government page that is not, we can produce shows that our community producers come up with, even if we're not affiliated with them or they have a topic that we're not necessarily involved in. We can still say, new episode of Eye on Oshkosh, recorded tonight, it will air tomorrow. We have a standing agreement with our local weekly newspaper, which is getting super popular in the community. It's an in-kind agreement where they give us a little bit of ad space, and then on our LPFM, they sponsor our news updates at the top of the hour. So there's no money that exchanges hands there. I get a zeroed out bill in the mail every couple of months. But we promote the community access shows using that ad. We change the ad every week. And sometimes it's new episode of this or new episode of that. And we kind of just run through everybody's show and give everybody a little bit of love. So there's not a promise that's made as part of that contract, but we do actively promote. Even if it's not a partnership show, we will actively promote the independent shows as well.
You said that you don't put a time limit on, like, if they check out gear and stuff, and however long it takes them to produce that. Do you put a time limit on the stuff that they check out? Like, how long is that? It's
on first come, first serve. And I will say that we haven't recently had an issue where everything was out and someone needed something. We do just generally say, and when we fill out the form of what they take, we will write a note. When do you expect to bring this back? And if someone calls me or comes in and says, hey, I need a camera, and they're both out, then I'll contact one of those individuals and say, hey, just letting you know, if you're all finished up, we really need to get that back in here. So it's case by case. We don't put I've had people where, it's pretty quiet for a couple of weeks. Someone takes a camera and keeps it for that long. I just check in with them on an email and just say, hey, making sure everything's okay. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to go shoot yet. And so it's not overwhelming, because even though it is, 2 or 3 times a week, it's pretty much frequent flyers, folks we trust. I don't get a lot of people who walk in off the street and say, what do I got to do to get a camera? It's the folks who already kind of know, and we promote it. We put it out there, but yeah, the folks that do the checkout, they kind of know the drill. So, yes,
I was gonna say, so when someone wants to come and produce a show, do you kind of help them? Like, let's say it's just one person, someone's got to run the camera or something like that. Yep. Do you help them, or do you say, hey, we're just not gonna have fun, figure it out?
Yep. So once we train them up, or they'll come in and say, I want to do this show, And we'll say, well, do you anticipate this being a studio show, or do you want to do this more out in the field? How do you kind of see this going? Talk about the vision they have for the show. If they say, I want to do this in the studio, I want it to be a talk show, and they say, the first thing I tell them is, we've got these two options. This is how I pose it to them. There's a no-cost option where you you schedule time in the studio, you schedule time in the control room, you bring your crew in. One of us is always here for technical support. We're not just going to be like, nope, sorry, you didn't pay the $150, we're not around. It's usually Scott because he works more in the evenings. But he's there, if something goes wrong with the TriCaster, or that something's going screwy with the camera and they can't figure it out, we don't just stand in our office and say, well, we don't really get involved. The tech side is where we will provide support. We don't do any editorializing or try to affect their content. We're like, this is your show. You do whatever you want with it. But when it comes to technical support, we will hop in and assist them. We won't leave them hanging. If they come in and they say, it's just me and, I'm involved with this nonprofit board and we really want to, get the word out and do this show, but, it's just me. I've got money. Would you guys be willing to help me out with this? That's where the partnership show, I've got support from the community. I've got underwriters. I got folks who want this show out there. I just can't find the crew. Then we will step in and say, if you prefer not to go the free route with your own crew, we do have this as an option. But that's not open to just anybody who's going to, pop off about whatever. That's defined in our policy document as a nonprofit or a community organization that kind of aligns with what the city has going on.
What happens if it's like just one resident and they don't have anyone else?
At that point, that's kind of where sometimes the idea kind of dies, I will say. It is on them to find a crew to, the other option is check out a single cam and do this as a single camera thing. I've had folks who are like, I want to do an interview show where I interview someone different every week, but I don't want to come into the studio and I want to interview guests from all across the country. And I say, find your favorite conferencing platform and do a dual screen and do your interview show. And if you want to bring that video in and work on the editor, if you've got editing skills and you want to add lower thirds or you want to add B-roll or graphics, we're here to tech support on that and we'll get you trained up on the editor. But if someone walks in and says, I want to do a studio show, I'm not part of any nonprofit organization, then basically what I say is you got to find a crew. And what I tell people is you can pull off a show, especially if you're a single host, with 2 more people. If you're not switching cameras and all you're really doing is rolling and open and popping in some lower thirds or maybe some B-roll once in a while. And when they're getting going, I will say it's not like a, learn to swim, throw them in the pool kind of thing. The first couple shows, we're more active, I would say. Once we see they're kind of starting to spread their wings a little bit, we'll back off and say, we'll be over here, but if you need us, we're around. See, we do try to foster that and say, it's not like we're just going to cut you loose on your own. And if you can't if you can't do this or that, we're not going to help you. We want them to create content for sure. But some folks also have unrealistic expectations about what their content's going to look like and what it takes. I think a lot of people want to have a podcast. I don't think a lot of people understand that the podcasts they listen to are like 4 hours, 2 hours of content that gets drilled down into a 30, 40-minute segment, and TV is no different, or video is no different. So I think what happens a lot of times, Kevin, and that's a great question, is someone will come in with an idea. Okay, this is how it works. We'll run you through the process. Oh, that sounds great. I'll be back. Never hear from them again. Because they just realize that if I'm really passionate about this is going to take a lot of work. And there's oftentimes an unrealistic expectation about how much of my personal time is this actually going to take. So does that kind of answer? Great question. It's a crack that sometimes people do fall through, unfortunately. Any other questions for me? Tom, you want to come on up?
Sure.
I don't know that I got your.
Second one?
Sorry, guys.
There you are. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Out your way here. Punch through yours quick. Oh, when it loads up.
Oh, we'll put it on here. Okay, just doing its thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, my name's Tom Laux, Director of Communications for the City of Marshfield, and also oversee these 3 channels as well. We're a 2-person staff. David Ballerstein is the main person for the public access portion, and similar to what Oshkosh does, Jake is that person, and Andy's the other person on the other end, but he's got an extra person. So anyway, what we've done differently is really we have rebranded since Marshfield Community TV. If anyone that's been here for a while, MCTV was their former name. It was contracted out, took this over in 2019 and put it under the city and rebranded to Marshfield Broadcasting. And now under myself and David's help, we have branched off into called channels. I think you have seen this in some of the areas, but not really saying PEG channels. We're changing the emphasis on how how that works. So I'm not just calling it public, education, government. People really never knew what that meant anyway. Public, you say PEG, and they're thinking pegboards. So we started this, I think now almost, it's getting to about 6 months, 7 months ago on the Marshfield Broadcasting Producers Channel. And that is a channel meant for producers only. So, and then we have our Marshfield Now channel, which is a professional style channel that's local, done by our staff, only by myself and David, by inviting people in. But production's all done by us. We will run stuff like Wisconsin Eye, Democracy Now!, other ones that are some higher caliber programs. And then our government channels, just like everybody else's, your meetings and stuff like that. So I'll just go down here and see if this is going to behave itself. I just hit the arrow button. It's sending a request every time. I love Google, don't we? Not a Google fan, never has. Parts of the slide doesn't load. Reload. Reload. Would be easier. Well, guess what? Anybody have a Seaport HDMI? Probably not. That's what I have on my computer. It's not showing. Oh, look at that. It is a slow thing. Let me just grab mine. We can talk about it that way without showing you. If it comes up, that's great. If it doesn't, well, so be it.
Yeah, you can have this if you want. This might convert it over too.
What is that? Is that HDMI?
It's-
Yeah, that'll work.
It's got an
That
HDMI.
HDMI, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. Take it right into here and throw my PowerPoint up there. So I don't think it's gonna work. Jake, you don't mind moving this?
I'm gonna move that right out of the way.
Thank you so much. Yep. Let's hope it works. If not, it's on my laptop and I can talk. Technology, we've all been there. It's not fun. Okay, look at that. Yikes. Let's bring this up. Presentation 1. There we are. Do you guys see anything? Look at that. Thank you, guys. All right, now, and like I say, I'm going to be a little bit like... all right, we good? This is a whole different program. I'm going to sound like you that said about PowerPoint. I can't.
Yes.
I don't use it either. Okay, here's our producers channel. And just wanted to talk about it's a community produced channel that's really meant by the residents. It's run by the residents. It's actually really run by the residents. We have provided access to people right to our scheduler. They can do the work. We've given them trust. We've trained them so they can do it from their home. They can program this channel. We just tell them where certain things are, like our blocks of our church programs. They can work with those people. It's a way to really empower the people for the channel. It's their channel, not mine, not ours. And we have things like Lights, Camera, Poker. If anyone's ever heard of that, that's very popular. We don't have it on. The phone's ringing. It is, so we have it on the Media Share, the new Media Share. Check it out. Senior Talks is another one that's done by another local producer. Loves to go there and do that, gets a camera, does their thing. Churches as well still use some of our equipment. We allow that, no problem. They come and get that every week and then bring it back. This is just a little flavor. We have quite a few other programs that are done by community producers. We will train. We do have a connection that David's working on with our local arts group called Chestnut Center for the Arts, and we provide same thing like Jake. The only thing is we don't charge. The Chestnut Center charges. They get the money. We just let them have it. Since we're okay on our funding, we'll let that be. And we get producers through their classes, and it's a class that's back at our channel, which benefits them and it benefits us. So we've been doing it a few times, and it's been kind of neat. We have one that's going to be on tarot cards, and then another one on if David was here, another different show. So we've picked up new people and interest in that way by partnering with other organizations that could help with this producers channel, as well as the 14 or 13 local church programs that we have on there, and polka program, you name it. There's quite a few on there. It's pretty full. So we have this new channel that we started called Marshfield Now channel, and this is the one that both only David and I contribute to, as well as other higher end productions that might be that could really be useful to the residents living in Marshfield. So you can see things that I've done here. It would be somewhat governmental focused, but not all. But some are on this channel to use this. So David does a Marshfield Now program, which is how we got the name of the channel, because the program really took off. And we said, well, why don't we just call the channel Marshfield Now? It just works. And we went from there. And we have programs like Heroes from Home. One of our, again, there are hosts that are not ours. But again, we're doing the production. We're doing all the arrangements. Similar to what Jake does that they pay for to do. So, but we're not charging at this point. Maybe down the road, that'd be something to think about. But the Heroes from Home, one of the people actually got an award, was here at the Capitol. It was pretty neat. You had stories in a WCM thing. So those are the things that I think when we can do and bring in local people, this is where we can do our programs. That's where, do talk shows dead and stuff. It depends on how you do them. David's pretty good with it. It doesn't take a lot of time. We still have a lot of people that want to come in and do those with myself or with another host in the community that we know that would like to do that, news organization, you name it. So that's a way to do it. I do a post-council update after every council meeting. This one I do only with elected officials because it's a common council, and I want different council members come. Council president always comes instead of the city administrator. Change that up. Get that perspective from the council because they're the ones that do it. I do a council preview with the city administrator before, and we do that every 2 weeks. We have a council meeting every 2 weeks. So they come in quite a bit. It gets our council involved. It's a good deal. We do little shorts and stuff city-wise. That's another one I go, City at Work. I don't know. I think I may have taken some of that name from Oshkosh years ago. Oops. So.
Bill's in the mail.
But, yeah. It wasn't copywritten, I don't think. Yeah, oops. Here's our government channel. Everyone has one, but it's very important. This is where all our meetings go, and we do a lot of meetings. And we just had a public safety referendum, and that was a big deal. Unfortunately, it didn't pass by about 60 votes. It was very close, and we spent about $45,000. Worked with a marketing company on it as well. So. But we do all these meetings, and our government does meetings upon meetings. So 2 meetings pretty much a month on all these different things. So the channel is packed. That's why We have to have two. If we didn't have two channels, we'd be in deep trouble. We wouldn't be able to run all the content. There would be no way, because we have that much content coming, especially with all the meetings that we do, and a lot of it came from council making these meetings. We never did that. We didn't do the utility because they didn't want it. Well, guess what? That changed, and the council said, no, you're doing it. Not us doing it. You're going to have it. So we had a lot of council support on all these meetings to say, no, you're doing them. And even our school board, that's something that, they really want, even though what does the school have to do? The school didn't want it. But the council felt it's strong enough. It was a discussion on the council floor. We actually have to, I said, I just don't have the time. We got so much, and I can't keep adding and adding. And I said, well, we'll look at it as a freelancer. So we pay someone $100, and they go out and bring that to us. And they were fine with that. They were hoping to get kids, but I said, well, guess what? That's a good idea, but you need to be consistent. So that didn't always happen, and now we're doing it, but we're paying for it. Just everyone's seen on demand. This is on our Marshfield Broadcasting website. Different than the cities. There's a difference. Just like Jake says, there's a separation. It's a challenge, very hard challenge for what I'm doing, as myself in my role as a communications director, and doing public access and government access. We're finding some major challenges there. We're looking at new ways. We're probably going to be changing ways in the future. I'm way overloaded. It's to the point that if I don't do something, I probably won't be here in 5 years, because I'll be 6 feet under, because I'm burnt out. It's not 8 hours, 10 hours, it's 15 hours to get it done. And they're recognizing that. But we haven't gotten there. We'll hopefully get there soon. And I think what to do is, we're going to do that and separate the fees. Again, communications director really isn't PEG, but we want to give the stuff to the PEG. And when I say PEG, government access is public access. It's Marshfield Broadcast. It's not the city of Marshfield. It is underneath, but it's really not the city. It is, but it isn't. So, and that's the confusion part. And we're trying to figure that out. So, I just want to go back to this here. We do submit programs. We have an application agreement online, similar to probably Jake. So we encourage that. I am very I take it seriously. I think public access is very, very, very important. They have access to a ton of gear, and our studio, our training. We do the same thing as Jake would do. If they need help, we're not going to ignore them. One thing that we do a little bit differently is a lot of chambers have leadership groups, and you've seen all those. A lot of times we have connected with them several different groups to do a project, because they see we have a lot of equipment, a lot of knowledge. And we're working on one right now. This group only wanted to capture audio of it, and I said, well, there has to be some tie-in to us, and you could do video of it. We could have it, so we have it. And they agreed to do that, and they've learned, and they had a group of 7 or 8 people come up, and they're doing this really important history project on a lady that may pass away after a while, has tons of rich information. Did the video, but they really wanted to learn addition, and they're going to do these kiosks that, you go press the button after she passes away, that tells about the history of all these really neat pieces they have in a museum in Marshfield. And so we connected with them and partnered with them, and then we get all the kudos. Marshfield Broadcasting is helping, and blah, 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 and helps with the chamber. It helps with the community foundation. So they're seeing, wow, what a value. This is awesome. Marshfield Broadcasting is allowing us to do this. There's no cost. And we get our name recognition. I think name recognition is key for everything, because it's ultimately going to help us in our other areas. Again, use of equipment, simple form. We have forms in our Revise, so if anybody has Revise for their government platform or for the city, I pay an extra $1,000 for a better form system, and we use that here than they have in there. So it's not bad. I can tell you about it if you want. This is I just really wanted to bring this up because I think this is important, and I didn't want to get too close, but some of us have gone this route as well, on top of our public access. And I want to show you the other piece that I'm doing on top of the public access, but how does it relate back to Marshfield Broadcasting? Because our department is the communications department. how do people know the difference? It's hard. But these are the other pieces that I am involved with on a very, this is my main daily work, is to work with this engagement hub, write news releases for the city. And again, this is coming from the city. And as you can see, branding is done differently. We came up with all this branding. There's your Facebook post on the city's Facebook page. We have about 12 different Facebook pages, departments. Again, it's overseen by the communication department, me, the director, to make sure that's all happening, right? Social media policy, all that baloney, whatever you want to say it. That's our city website there. I manage that entire website for all the departments, do a lot of the posting. I do give them some access that want to do it. That we have branding guides, style guides, you name it. Don't break it. You break it, I cut you off. That's the way it is. Don't like it, too bad. I do have support of the city administrator, mayor, and all those people. We do still have people that do that. But like I said earlier, you got to pick your battles, and you can't just push. And I'm not like that as much. City at Work, that is a video, and I tried to do a lot of pieces with that on the Government Access and the Marshfield Now channel. So I write this, I think a lot of people have seen these in other cities. I do this thing every week if I can, and I got my videos in there, and it teases back to the channel. I'll even put Marshfield Broadcasting information in there because it is a department, it's a division of the communications department, but why not promote it? So these are all these pieces, download, connect Marshfield. We got a mobile app, I deal with that. But again, we're split so far for two people. It's going to change. I think by next time we come here, David would be hopefully considered the coordinator of the public access. We'll hopefully get a raise, and because he does it all now, and graciously enough that he's doing it for peanuts. Hopefully I can get him more because his talent is great, and we work together in Rapids. So I appreciate David. He's over here, and he's like a Jake. It's amazing.
No, I'm not at his level.
Yeah, he does great. And but this is really, I came into this to Marshfield to do this, but I knew if we didn't do this, the PEG was going to go away. It was told to me, if you're not going to do both, one's going to go. And the PEG would have went. And I see that happening everywhere. But how do you do it all? I've been doing it for 4 years and growing every time. But I think you want to, this really shows our worth. Communications is key. Public access is a big key in it. And a lot of people want to put that maybe under IT. I've seen it. It's okay. But I don't suggest it on the level of communications, because I always said I don't want to be the guy that does all this stuff, because I can't write the stories. I want to be the story writer. Well, luckily I have David enough to be able to be that guy, and we work out really well that way. And he can do that. Although we do have an IT department. We were talking about putting this under IT originally before I came, because I was a consultant for them and the Rapids, and kind of just worked out. So I really encourage you guys to work with your communications directors. If you have one, possibly mold it together if you can, because there's so much. That's how you're going to build a rapport with the city. And I think that's going to be where, I know that's where we're all going to be someday. But hold on to that public access, at least our government for sure, and how you can really the city can use it to their advantage. We're sharing it onto it. That's why we went to Marshfield Broadcast. It sounds like a broadcasting channel. Well, it is, but we kind of look to that level. And we do that on another flip spin of the public access piece. You may see me out there filming in the community, but I'm not filming under Marshfield Broadcast. I'm volunteering. I'll almost wrap it. I'm volunteering for a school, a church. I'm their volunteer. I'm not the volunteer of Marshfield Broadcasting's producers channel. I mean, I give it to the producers channel. Even on public access, I'm trying to vision that, hey, Tom is not doing all this work. I'm a volunteer just like we want. We want you as a volunteer of your organization. You have a lot of volunteers, don't you? Well, yeah. Well, we'll help your volunteers. We just say in cooperation with Marshfield Broadcasting, and voila, it works. So just because I'm trying to split my hat. It's hard to be representing the city per se when they're throwing city officials and things under the bus when you're filming them. That's very difficult. And that's one of the problems we're having here is I'm looking as a director of communications. I represent the city. I'm the city's voice when I write. And now you're running public access and you're taping programs that are against all the city. Wow, that's goofy here. This ain't making any sense. So that's something we're looking at it seriously and how the funding will change. My position would be funded under the general fund, giving more money back to the Marshville Broadcasting, and hopefully give David a raise and hire a part-timer. So hopefully that's the way we're going to go. We just need to find money out of the general fund. I don't know how Oshkosh does it with Andy, but I think they have some similarities in there and how they do that. Andy's not down there doing all the work. That's Jake's work, and Andy's doing the press releases and stuff like that. So we did kind of mold from that. I always looked at mold from that, and I like it. So that's really, I just wanted to put that piece in there because I think it's so important in where we're going, and I know a lot of you have already started down that path. So I got the signal, just cut it off. So any questions? And I'll be here through lunch, right, David? I think we are. He's my transport. Or I'll be walking home. And I don't want to. Yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.